Only one side has beaten Pep's Manchester City juggernaut this season, and that is Big Ange Postecoglou's Tottenham Hotspur. And while we all expected Pep Guardiola to play an academy side, he actually played a very strong team. And from his histrionics on the touchline, you could see that this was a game he had no interest in losing. A huge feather in the cap for Big Ange and the squad, bouncing back beautifully and showing they do have the desire, the steel and the mentality to face adversity, and long may it continue. I'll be discussing what we learned from Spurs 2, Manchester City 1 in today's episode of the Spurred On podcast. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you're feeling the joy of that win this morning. Please do press that like button and subscribe to the channel if you don't already. Daily Tottenham Hotspur content and other Premier League transfer news and general news as well. But I want to talk almost solely about what we learned from that victory today. And I'm going to start with the deepness of our squad and how much of a change that is from last season. And even back in the day, actually, even in the good days of Mauricio Pochettino, I never felt that our squad was that deep. And for some reason, in my head, keeps coming up Kevin Wimmer. Whenever we had an injury to Big Jan Vertonghen or Toby Alderweireld, Kevin Wimmer would have to come in, and it just wasn't strong enough in terms of squad depth. But Ange Postecoglou and Johan Lange, and you have to give credit where credit is due, they are getting together a squad where every single player can play in the style that the manager is looking to play. And that really was proven yesterday with good shifts put in by some unsung heroes, actually. Ben Davis, I want to say, came on and put in a good shift when Christian Romero had to come off in the second half. I thought Radu Dragusin, although looking a little bit uncomfortable on the ball, don't forget he's still a young defender, so that will come with his confidence and with rhythm as he plays games. But in terms of the intensity he played at, in terms of the pressure that he put on Manchester City players when they had chances, and I'm particularly thinking about that chance where Yves Bissouma cleared it off the line in the last few minutes of the game, Radu Dragusin really got his body in the way, and that's something that he is absolutely excellent at. In the second half, I thought Archie Gray was really top-notch, actually. Very, very, very impressive. Got braver as the game went on, really turned and took the ball in some very tight spaces on the right touchline. Don't forget, this is not his natural position. Everybody at Leeds talks about him as being a natural number 6/number 8 in midfield, but at Spurs, he's really being thrown at the deep end, having to play at right back when he gets his opportunities. And what I love about him is just, like I said, his courage, taking the ball in difficult positions from Vicario in midfield, and just little 1 and 2 touch balls and some good stuff down the line, setting in Kulusevski a few times. So well done, Archie Gray. A lot of people in the comments, I was doing the watch along on We Are Tottenham TV, a lot of people in the comments at half-time saying, you've got to take Archie Gray off. He's struggling because he was up against Nunes, who is blistering pace-wise. But it's very impressive to me that Archie Gray saw what was happening in the first half and then changed his body position somewhat in the second. That really didn't allow Nunes to get outside him in that second half. And like I said, when he was on the ball, everything impressed me. And then Pape Matar Sarr. I mean, it shouldn't be any surprise that Pape Matar Sarr had a good game and is a young player with lots of talent who can impress, because he had a great season last season, and even as far back as when Antonio Conte had to throw him and Oliver Skipp together in central midfield against AC Milan at the San Siro, one of the hardest tests that you can face in European football, a baying crowd, and it looked like just, water off a duck's back for Pape Matar Sarr. And again, yesterday when he came on, as he played yesterday, very, very impressive. I said when he came on because actually he was taken off, wasn't he, at half-time because he got that booking. But that just showed how much he was putting it about. And actually, I want to talk about that a little bit. I really felt that Spurs had maybe learnt a little bit from their kind of mauling at Crystal Palace, where I felt that Palace really put their foot in and really shook Spurs up yesterday. Well, it was Tottenham who was doing that to the young Man City side early on in the game, getting some good early challenges in. Pape Matar Sarr had those 3 fouls that ended up with him getting booked, and Rodrigo Bentancur, a little high challenge early on one of the Manchester City Academy players. And I think that shook Man City up a little bit, and really what led to us getting 2-0 up after about half an hour or so. But of course then, and this is what I think Ange Postecoglou will be taking the Spurs players through this morning or this afternoon when they go through the videos, is that drop of intensity again after about half an hour. And that is something that Tottenham really have to stop doing, because when you're in the Premier League or playing a Premier League team, and certainly when you're playing a team as incredible as Manchester City, no matter what side they put out, if you drop that intensity, if you allow the home crowd to lull in atmosphere, then they will play their game and they will make chances. And that's what happened, and that's what led to the goal just before half-time. And I'm going to take you back to the one of Ange's early pre-season games in his first season at Spurs against Shakhtar Donetsk, which actually turned out to be Harry Kane's last game for Tottenham Hotspur. And I was there at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and Ange was going mental in the last 5 minutes of the first half when Tottenham just kind of dropped off and sat a bit deeper and weren't interested in the intensity. And he was going mental about it. He said that has to change, and there are still elements of that happening with this Spurs squad. And like he keeps saying, it's a project. There are going to be ups and downs. The players are still learning it, but that will disappoint him a little bit. But that is one of the very few negatives I can find about yesterday's win, which was really fantastic. A really important statement win for Ange Postecoglou. A statement win for the club. Like I said at the top, the only team to have beaten Manchester City in any competition this season. Man City are on something stupid like a 32-33 game unbeaten run in the Premier League. If they get to 38, I mean, it won't be an invincible season because it has to be over one season to be deemed as invincible, but 38 games is what Arsenal did, isn't it? Unbeaten. Maybe they did a bit longer actually into the next season, but there's a record there for Man City to chase, and I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think the reason Pep Guardiola has stayed this season is he wants to go invincible. That is the record he wants to take from Arsenal. He took the treble record that only Man United had done, and now I think he wants to go invincible as well. So well done Tottenham Hotspur, well done Big Ange for turning him over. The next thing I want to talk about in terms of things that we learned, or that we're learning really as these games go on, Dominic Solanke. I'm telling you, if this Tottenham Hotspur team can start making chances for Dominic Solanke, and I'm positive that when we do, he will put them away, then we will have a worldy centre forward on our hands. The donkey work that he does, the doggies that he runs up and down, the defensive work, the pressing, the intensity leading from the front, second to none. I don't see many strikers currently in the Premier League working as hard and as impressively and as cleverly as Dominic Solanke is. And I'm so excited for when this starts to click in the next few months. I'm really hopeful. And we start making Solanke lots and lots of chances, just as we did under Pochettino for Harry Kane, when it all just really started coming together. I remember one Christmas period, actually, when I think Kane scored a hat-trick at Wembley against Southampton. It was that period where he was looking to score about 50 goals in a calendar year. And I think if this team can click the way that team did, then Solanke will start to score goal after goal. And I think 60 million personally for me in terms of all-round football play, and feel free to let me know in the comments if you think I'm going mad, but I think that 60 million currently looking like a steal because he will score goals and he will work for the team. I want to talk about Timo Werner, a huge moment for him, and if anything actually, well, I'll talk about the goal first. Huge moment for him, really put it away beautifully, and this is a great time for Werner's confidence to improve because we are going to need him. We've got a huge week coming up of games, and this period in November is going to be very difficult for Spurs, and Sonny obviously is clearly managing an injury, and Mikey Moore, he's putting pressure on them, but I don't think he can play regularly. I think Europa League is a good place for Mikey Moore to continue his development. So Werner to have some confidence in goal is massive. In front of goal, is massive. And I want to talk about that one-on-one he had in the second half because he did everything brilliantly there. And I'm going to say even the finish, even though he didn't score, he did everything absolutely right. Left foot across the keeper with enough pace on it where the keeper couldn't get anything on it. And it was minute, wasn't it? That it just missed. And I think that will give him confidence too. That actually gives me confidence that in those opportunities, as he keeps making those opportunities for himself, because he's in the right position, he's making good runs, isn't he? He doesn't get caught offside very much, Werner, so he is clever in that way. As he makes more chances for himself like that, I'm now far more confident after yesterday's performance. Don't forget, against the best team in the land, one of the best teams in the world, if not the best team in the world. They've got the World Club Championship badge on them, haven't they? He scored an important goal, so that'll be massive for Timo Werner. I want to talk a little bit about Yves Bissouma. He made some crazy decisions, didn't he? Pretty much the whole time he was on the pitch. Some crazy decisions. Don't forget, he'd only come onto the pitch because Pape Matar had got booked and he was walking the tightrope of getting sent off. So Ange brought him off, and he must have said to Bissouma when he went on, play your natural game, but please You don't do anything stupid and get yourself booked early, and that is exactly what Basuma did. But the reason I'm bringing up a little bit of negativity about him is because he made it all worthwhile when he cleared that ball off the line in the last few minutes of the game. An absolutely vital moment for Tottenham Hotspur this season, and I think that could be a vital moment for Basuma's Spurs career as well. It'll help him lift his confidence, which is always high anyway, but make him really show that he is providing match-winning moments for this Tottenham Hotspur team. And I think he'll start at the weekend against Aston Villa, and we need him on the half-turn at his best in that central midfield there to break through Villa's press. And I hope that clearance off the line will be massive for Basuma going forward as well. Obviously, we can't talk about a performance of this season without mentioning Decky Kulusevski, and what I've written here in my notes in terms of what we learned, that he is fast becoming a £100 million player. We've heard Pep Guardiola before say about Kulusevski, what a player, and what a player he is. And actually, one thing that I'm going to say in terms of what I saw from him last night is I'm so expectant of him performing this way now that actually at the end of the game, when I was thinking about man of the match, I didn't think of him really. I thought about Werner. I thought about some other players. But actually, he got the man of the match, and probably rightly so, because he got 2 assists, didn't he? And what I'm saying here is that it's so natural for me to expect this of him now that I'm not really surprised. His assist for Werner was actually brilliant on his swinger, just perfectly weighted. And then the pass again for Pape Matar on the edge of the bench, on the edge of the box, beautifully weighted, and got to give so much credit to Pape Matar. What a finish. Often with his long shots in his Spurs career, and all the way back to his career in France, actually, he's hit them with the laces, just tried to absolutely whack them. But this time, very impressively, on the first touch, didn't take a touch, just let him hit it first time, places it, but with power. And I think that gives me lots of excitement about possibilities for Pape Matar from those kind of positions going forward, because he will learn from that and he'll be like, maybe whacking them with my laces isn't the way forward. Like, I've get enough power on it from those positions by placing it, and that will get a lot more chances of those chances on target and make it very difficult for goalkeepers. So well done Pape Matar, and well done Decky Kulusevski for getting man of the match. What a player. Get those legs in the ice bath. Get rested, because I think he will start against Aston Villa ahead of James Maddison, I think, realistically, at the weekend. That is, if Ange is going to go on form. If he's going to go on tiredness, probably Maddison will start. Let me know in the comments who you want to start in that 10 role at the weekend, because you've got to assume that Pape Matar will be brought in alongside Basuma, and he'll pick only one of Kulusevski or Maddison to play in that 8-10 role. I thought Rodrigo Bentancur was absolutely everywhere last night. Really well done. Some important slide-in tackles, some important aerial duels won. Really putting himself about. Well done, Rodrigo. Glad he's playing well, and this is a good situation for Spurs to have both him and Basuma fit and playing well in the sixth position, and we're able to just kind of transfer one player in or one player out of the team, depending on whether we're playing Europa League or Premier League, or who is more fatigued and who is more fit for each one. I think in terms of overall, we've proven, Big Ange has proven that what he said about the growth of this side is exactly how it is. Ups and downs are to be expected, and it's about how we bounce back, and we bounce back so well from that Crystal Palace disappointment. I'm going to talk about some more kind of specific things really, and how Ange is growing this team and improving this team as we go along. The set pieces really now seem to have been sorted, don't they? We didn't really struggle at all, other than when big Guillermo Vicario made an absolute madness decision in the last few minutes there from a corner. Just panicked really. It was like he was playing FIFA, and he decided, like I do when I'm defending corners on FIFA, where I'm just going to hold down the triangle button and have the keeper come out whatever happens. Well, Vicario seemed to have made that decision preemptively before the ball had come in, and he was, 6, 7, 8 yards away from the ball in total no man's land. You can see it on his face, absolute panic. And as I mentioned before, Basuma saved him. But other than that, the actual defending of the corners, I think, in terms of what the players are doing, has been sorted. The next thing that Ange needs to sort, back post defending, because yet again, the goal we scored last night was from the back post defending, and Brennan Johnson and Pedro Porro and Archie Gray last night, they need to work it out with Big Ange Postecoglou. Where am I supposed to be defending at the back post? They're clearly told to go narrow and mark the middle, which, sure, that is where the initial danger and the bigger danger will always be. But if opposition teams are seeing in their analysis that all they need to do if they get to the byline is dink it up to a huge expanse of area at the back post to have a free shot on goal from 6, 7, 8, 9 yards, then that's too easy. It's too easy to do a dink ball like that. It really is. So I think Brennan Johnson is going to have to be told to be touch tight to any man who comes in from the wide area there. And it's difficult. It's going to involve a lot of energy for him. But at the moment, it's not looking good for him. Each time we concede those goals, and he's the closest player to it, and he isn't marking. So that's what's going to have to be sorted next. And then also, after that, or at the same time as that, the away form. That's it. Once Ange has those things sorted out, Spurs are going to be winning so many games. I actually think we all talked before last season about how us only playing one game a week is going to really help. But I actually really think that having only one game a week last season probably really hindered the speed at which Tottenham were able to learn these things under Ange Postecoglou. And that's maybe why it's taking Ange Postecoglou longer at Spurs to properly change things around the way he did at Celtic or the way he did in Japan or in Australia. And also, as well as that kind of having hindered that a little bit, I think the reality of how many Tottenham players he had to get out of the club and how many new players he had to bring in. So that's why I think it's not being quite as quick for Ange at Spurs to really kind of push towards the top of the table as it was elsewhere. But let me know in the comments, am I wrong? Do you think, do you still feel after yesterday you've got doubts about Ange? If you do, tell me exactly what they are. But I am positive about Ange Postecoglou. I know it comes across like we're all quite reactive. When we win, it feels like we're up there. And when we lose, it's like we're down there. But that's football, isn't it? That's passion. When you're passionate about it. And when you see a result like the Palace one and the performance, you're like, oh, what's going on there? But they really bounced back yesterday, and just very, very impressive. A little negative here, though. It's a bit worrying to see after about 10, 11 games, similarly to last season, injuries starting to hit again. Van der Ven obviously grabbing at his hamstring yesterday. I really hope that that was just a twinge and that it was kind of precautionary and they didn't want to make the same mistake they had previously with Van der Ven, which has let him run it off and make it worse and see him out for a month. I hope that it was just a twinge and that they can get that sorted so that he's only out for maybe a week or 2 weeks. But also Romero coming off for fatigue. Werner looked like he had a little bit of a knock, certainly, when he came off. And also Brennan Johnson was hobbling slightly when he came off. Spurs have to be careful with this. Clearly, after 10, 11 games as the winter months come in, it was a problem last season as we got all those injuries against Chelsea, and we need to make sure that doesn't happen again. Of course, that victory against Manchester City yesterday now means we face their rivals, Manchester United, and that game is in mid-December. The date has not been agreed yet, but I don't know what the latest. I'm recording this about 12:30 on Thursday, but I don't know what the latest on Ruben Amorim is yet. It looks like he's definitely going to be the next Man United manager, but last I heard last night was that maybe he would have to see out his notice period, which is 30 days. If that is the case, then that I think would make it very close to that being one of Amorim's early games. And let me know what you think in the comments. I can't tell whether that would be a good thing for Spurs or a bad thing for Spurs. And in fact, if that is the case, I think that will really depend on how well Ruud van Nistelrooy does in his few games for Man United before Amorim comes in, if that is indeed what happens. Obviously, Van Nistelrooy got a big win, 5-2 against Leicester last night, and you could really see that the pressure was off the players. But if Van Nistelrooy does really well and it gets into the Man United fans' heads that maybe he would do a good job, then that could make it a difficult start for Amorim. But look, the key is, I think, home draw against Man United, and frankly, at this stage, I back us to beat anyone at home, and that includes Aston Villa this weekend. And going into that, I just think this next week now is a huge chance for Ange to fully banish that Palace result, because if we can beat Villa at the weekend, then I think it's fair to say all of us would have said, wouldn't we? We would take a Palace defeat if we can beat City and beat Villa, and that would make it a great week. But actually, next week is a Villa, Galatasaray away on in midweek, and then Ipswich at home triple header. Now, I know maybe I'm being overly positive, but can we go into those games and take all 9 points, putting us basically through in the Europa League and then getting us right back up there, knocking Villa off their little bit of a perch? They've had a great start to this season. That would be huge for me and what I want us to do to really banish that Crystal Palace result into the depths of the past. I'll just give some quotes from after the Palace game. Ange Postecoglou said in terms of, he talked about in terms of the response to the Palace defeat. He said, yes, we were disappointed at the weekend because we didn't reach the levels we needed to. This group is still learning a lot of things and need these experiences of difficult times. You don't want difficult times to last too long. And this year we have tended to bounce back when we've had a bit of a stumble. Exactly what I was talking about earlier, the importance of bouncing back. He said, we're a side that's growing and I continue to see progress. We need to keep working at what we're doing. And also said that Sarr came off at half-time, definitely because he was booked and not injury related. And as I mentioned earlier, fatigue is what made Romero come off. And then just before I go, some quotes from both former Spurs player William Gallas and former Spurs manager Antonio Conte. Some kind of overall thoughts on Spurs. Gallas has said this, that Spursy tag has been on the club for many years now. For Ange Postecoglou to take off that tag, Tottenham need to perform well and have a victory almost every weekend. At the end of the season, they have to finish in the top four, and then the fans can believe that they can challenge for the title the following season. Tottenham have always got the same problem. They are never consistent enough, and they don't have enough top class players. In fact, all the London teams have been inconsistent this season. What's going on with the London teams? Well, just to break into Gallas's interview and quotes there, it's actually, in my opinion, harder for the London teams to win anything than it is some of the northern teams because they just have so many London derbies. And with London derbies, particularly for the kind of, dare I say it, smaller London clubs, they're the biggest games of their seasons. They get up for it far more. We saw it against Palace at the weekend, so it is harder for the London teams. And Spurs have found that in the past when they've been challenging for the title under Pochettino, and I think Arsenal are finding that now. Gallas went on to say, Tottenham can only get rid of that tag by being consistent. They need to finish in the top four. Tottenham have got the stadium, they've got the training ground, the facilities are unbelievable. They have the fans, they need to sell the players that aren't good enough and buy some players that will help their squad challenge for the title. They need to let the Spurs fans dream of the Premier League. I mean, I don't think anything that Gallas is saying there is untrue. Let me know what you think in the comments if you agree or disagree. I think Spurs are still growing to a point where we will then be able to buy the best players. At this point under Ange, he's looking to get a proper team, a proper squad together of young, exciting talent. And then when that starts to really grow and push together towards the top of the table, which I think will happen, then we need to kind of put the icing on the cherry on the cake by buying some absolute top level players then, when we have that readiness. And I'm hopeful that will come in the next few years or so. As I always mention, Arsenal moved into the Emirates in 2006, and it wasn't till 2013 that they were able to properly spend money again. And it wasn't actually till about 2017 till they bought Nicola Pepe, which was like properly breaking their transfer record of like getting up to £75 million. So Spurs are going to have to be a bit more patient, I think. And then finally, Antonio Conte, who's of course riding high, top of the league with Napoli at the moment. He was asked after they beat Milan the other night about his time at Spurs. He said, I think I did very, very well at Spurs. I arrived with the squad in 9th position and we qualified for the Champions League. I'm sure that I did the best job possible for Spurs. I can't do miracles. Conte never afraid to have a dig at anyone, and this time it's Tottenham's turn. I mean, look, frankly, Conte, fine, whatever, you did well, and it was great in that first season where he got in the Champions League, but then it all dropped off, and to be fair to him, a lot of people in his life died, didn't they? The coach and stuff like that, and he also had to have an operation, but he wasn't the right man for Spurs long term. And finally, before I go, George Weah, I don't know if you saw that when he was at the Ballon d'Or Awards, he was asked who his favourite striker is at the moment. He said Harry Kane, because he played for my club, Spurs. So George Weah, last thing I can say about you is, why did you play for Chelsea then? There you go. Absolute mercenary, but glad to hear that he supported Spurs. And if you're too young to remember George Weah playing, what a striker he was. Check him out on YouTube. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching and listening. Please do give this video a like if you haven't already. Please do subscribe to the channel for daily Tottenham Hotspur content, and listen to this on the podcast platforms while you're out running or driving or wherever you are. Just go to Spotify or Apple Podcasts, type in the Spurred On podcast, and you can get this every single day in your ears. Enjoy that victory, guys. Onwards. Villa at the weekend. Come on, you Spurs.